and we're thinking about it. Today, what's happening? Huh. Nothing happening. Let's try again. Go live. Well, I think my internet's working. Let's get rid of this. Let's look at this one. I was seeing things fine.
This guy's going to be able to send the ball.
All right, take two. Go live. Go live. Hey, hello and welcome to this week's Profit Maximizer moment. I don't know why that just didn't want to go live. It wasn't telling me we were live, so if you were watching that, my apologies. Anyways, it's happened to me half a dozen times this year, at least in the last, since, I want to say truthfully, I'm saying this year, in the last 2 months, 3 months tops, where I've had somebody coming in and talking to me about how their cash flow is being crunched. Out of the 6 I remember, I had one Monday. Yeah, one was just the business is not working. But that's not normally the case. What's normally the case is they're making money, but they have a cash flow problem. Normally it's in the construction area in particular, but it can be retail, wholesale. I've seen it in service industries where you're paying a heavy overhead and you're not getting the work done. So what happens? Well, the one that I met with Monday was used to doing big jobs for him were $100 to $150,000. Those It's getting $750,000 job on a 1.5 million, 1.2 million, whatever it is. All right. So what ends up happening? And I see this. You do a good job. You get general contractor, whoever you're selling to, new customer, gives you a shot. You do a good job. All right. And they give you a little bit more and you do a good job, and then a little bit more, and then you become their trusted person. So they give you 2 or 3 at a time. Well, what happens? Well, simple. You didn't cash budget. You didn't plan. And you're sitting down looking at it. You grew and you're profitable. You got good profits, but you have to pay your people that you need to do this kind of work. All right. Every week or every 2 weeks, you have to buy your material. And often in today's world with, tariffs and supply chain problems that we had over the last 2 years and increased fuel costs or whatever, inflation, you're locking it in. So you're literally ordering, like he was going to have to order $200,000 worth of material for a job that's not going to start for 2 or 3 months. And that has to be paid within 30 days. All right. So what happens is you end up in this treadmill, and you get to a point where what I call a farmer method. You can always tell when the crops. I work for a CPA firm that had a lot of farmers and ranchers, and we always joked you could tell when it was a good year because everybody bought a new truck. But what also happened with farmers is nobody got paid until the crops came in and they got paid. All right. Well, that's fine. People working with farmers and ranchers understand the business, and if they're, giving them credit, they understand. But doesn't work real well for a normal business, a contractor, somebody selling a product, because your vendors, they're not going to give you the best price or the best terms if you're slow pay. The key to success, truthfully, in most of these, they make their profit as much buying as they do from selling, how they buy and who they buy from and the terms they get. All right. So what do you do? Well, look for it before it happens. All right. Once you start to grow, personally, I taught this yesterday in my course. I don't know how any business runs without having a budget, a cash budget. All right. So what I mean by that is at least I sit down at the beginning of the year and I do a cash budget for the whole year. All right. And then I update it every 3 to 6 months. I usually do the first update right after tax season. So like in May, do the second one sometime around now, August, September. so I can see what the end of the year is going to look like and how I'm doing. Why? I want to, and I do it in pretty good detail. What every customer by name, what I think they're, not all in 1040s until I get to the extensions and I know who to accept. Before that, I'm taking last year's plus or minus 5 or 10%. But once I get to the extension deadline, I know what I have. Well, you too. You get a contract, you know what you're working on. I got somebody who's a civil engineer. They know what they have, so they can do a budget. I'm not sure they do, but I don't know how you run a business without it. Because even when I was at Magnolia Coca-Cola, $600 million company back in the 80s when I was with them, we did a budget because we knew we were seasonal. So to make sure that we didn't run out of, let me move forward so this chair stops squeaking. It's driving me crazy. So it's probably driving you crazy. Anyways, so that we made sure we didn't run out of money. What we did is when we did the budget, we saw there was an area that we were going to get squeezed because there were seasonal. We can probably be all right. I don't like probably. I'm going to be all right. That's what I like. And that's what you should be doing with that budget, identifying those time periods where you might be all right. You'd probably be all right. Okay. And what do? Well, that's when you arrange the financing and you get with your CPA, with your bank. I work with a lot of different bankers I've formed relationships with over the last 30 plus years of owning my own business. And even some of these I've worked with since before I owned my own business. So I kind of know who to send it to, who does good with dirt loans, construction period loans, who does financing for construction companies that get a big loan, get a big job, line of credits, that kind of thing. Who's willing to work with new businesses, who only wants established businesses. So get with your CPA, call me, and let's talk about your situation and what we need. Also, the loneliest person in the bank is the commercial loan officer, because he's telling people 9 times out of 10, you're not ready yet. You don't. I need all this. This is what I need. Bump, 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 bump. Go with your CPA. If they're any good and they've worked with banks before, they can tell you what you need before you walk in. Why? If you walk in with the last 3 years tax returns, with a year-to-date financial statement, and what the banks want to know is what you're going to use the money for, what income stream is going to repay it, and then what collateral they have. Have those things ready when you walk in so that you're prepared. That's what they want to see. And then if you're going for, something that's bigger, have a projection. If you're doing a construction loan, a loan for a building of a building, you have the architect, you have everything ready. You walk in prepared. All right. That's the key. And you get the financing before you need it. So banks don't want to lend you money, and I don't blame them, when you're broke. Okay. So you need to walk in. It's all right to go to the bank and say, wow, I picked up this large contract and it's going to squeeze me. They understand that. They deal with businesses. So that if they don't understand that, you're dealing with the wrong bank. Call me, I'll get you with the right banker. But they get that, and they're in the business of lending money, so they do want to lend money. They just don't want to lend it in a way where they make money and don't lose money, and it helps you. If you got a good banker, they're trying to help you be successful. All right. So first thing I would do if you're in this situation, call me. If you're in, I'll be happy to have a conversation with you and go over. I got a workbook that I used yesterday for the course that I've handed to clients, parts of it. I break out the part that has to do with financing, and we go over what they need. All right. And then I even make the introduction and sit in the meeting. Your CPA should do that. If they're not doing that, that's a good reason to call me. All right. Because we do. So understand, financing it is another problem I run into a lot of times. Is entrepreneurs like, I don't want to borrow money. That's, sorry. If you're in the growth mode, okay, let's take Amazon, for example. They lost money for 10 to 12 years straight when they first started. They're obviously one of the biggest companies in the world right now, and they're very, very profitable. So how did they do that? Well, they had a plan. They went to the bankers, they went to investors, they sold their plan and got them to buy in, took little increments, showed them what they were doing. All of a sudden, they're buying warehouses now. They're putting them everywhere. They got their own trucks that they did. It didn't happen like that overnight. No, it was so you need to do the same kind of thing. But it starts with don't panic. All right. Even if you got a cash flow problem, again, call me because I'll go over the book with you. I got 82 ways to find the cash that's in your business. I think it was 82, 80, whatever it is. It's in the appendix of the book. Um, Call me, email me, Wayne at wjb-cpa.com. You can schedule a call with me, Wayne Belisle at gmail/clarity. I had to remember that one. All right. So we'll just have a conversation. No sales. I joke that I've built this business one free hour at a time. I had two meetings today that were on oddball stuff. We didn't bill them for it because I want them to call me before they do something stupid. Hey, until next time, this is Wayne Belisle saying, don't panic. Do a cash budget. Figure out what you need. Call me or you call your CPA. If they're not helping you, get someone who does, as simple as that knows what they're doing and has worked with banks before. Most of us are pretty good. I've been doing it so long, I got a lot of bank contacts. So until next time, this is Wayne Belisle signing off saying, let's make this our most profitable year ever. Profitable year ever. I used to be able to talk. And have a great weekend. It's Thursday afternoon already. And God bless. Catch you at church. See you next week. Thank you. Bye. And we're out of here.